All right, this week we have a really special podcast. So on Sunday, we did an interview with just a fantastic client of mine, Dawn Myers of The Most. So you can check out her website at themostcurls.com. She went through the first incubator we called Mindhive about a year and a month ago, and she hopped on. I blasted this out to the email group. So if you didn't get the email, sign up for my newsletter. You can go to redbluecollective.com, click subscribe up at the top. If you get one of our lead magnets, you get the pricing worksheet, you get the innovation challenge guide. If you get the customer avatar worksheet, any of our worksheets, you'll probably be hit on that list as well. But I'm posting little alerts like that. Hey, we've got this interview, and there's so much knowledge packed into this podcast. It's ridiculous. You can get, it's a course worth of content. It's really special, and it's great that Dawn spent her time, her weekend, to come out and just fill us in, like what's happened since the incubator, since she took the course, and how's she getting so much social media now? Like how has she been featured in so many publications? How did she raise enough money to launch her physical product through pitch events and grants and all these other programs? How did she do all the things that we keep harping on you guys about? If you have an idea, there is a pathway. If you have a passion, you can make it happen. And Dawn is a perfect example of that. Her energy has attracted an amazing team of people. She's putting out more and more media. She's got great investors. She's parts of great organizations. Putting her product and putting her business together. It's great to see the progress that she's made, and she's going to share. So listen up.
I mean, if we only have a few people, maybe you can reissue the invite. It's too much.
Okay. Well,
It's up to you.
I posted it on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
And I think really the good traction that we'll get is cutting this up and posting it. I'm getting such a great response from LinkedIn right now.
Good.
Because it's like, if I get 500 views, it's like 500 real people views,
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really working well. But
yeah. I've got to do more with LinkedIn. That's one area that I'm very much neglecting.
Yeah. So people that are in your seat, they're like, why would somebody on LinkedIn be interested in my product? And I'm like, they're interested in you.
Mm-hmm.
Developing and releasing your product, like the whole mechanics of your business. It's such a great story on LinkedIn. It's the best story. It's the story that everybody likes. So it's almost like the most native that you can have for the platform. But people feel like, why would somebody care about this product that I'm developing? And like, because they want to do the same thing.
Yeah. I'm starting to learn that. I mean, that I've always been really weird about social media. It's just it's still really uncomfortable for me. But that's one thing that I'm learning. Like so many people have come out of the woodwork, like just like I came to you and I was like, what in the world is this world? Like so many people are coming to me now, like, tell me how to do this. This is my idea. And I'm like, I don't know any things, but I'll give you what I do know.
Well, let's get officially started. So my name is Callie Keene. I am the president and founder of Red Blue Collective. We grow hardware startups, physical product companies with strategy, with design, and with manufacturing. One of the things that we do as just an educational component, it's one of the pillars of our company, it's one of the missions of the company, is that we go out and we have incubator programs, we have courses and programs to help emerging entrepreneurs get started. And we've been really lucky, we've been really blessed and worked with some amazing founders over the years. And Dawn is one of our success stories. She makes us look good, that's what I always say. And her product is launching. It's live right now, right? For pre-sales.
Yep.
I'm buying one so I can add it to my case of products, right? Is because I just did an unboxing of another product of Altor locks, and they're not a client; it's just a friend down the street. This is like my weird obsession, is collecting all of my friends' products that they put together, because it's better than a Rolex.
Yeah.
What's up, Ben?
Ben.
Yes, another.
Cohort mate.
So we all met and worked together in.
My bad. I was on mute. I was saying hi.
You're on mute. In an incubator that we dubbed Mindhive, and the Mindhive program was really just taking all the different pieces where I've lean certified, done like the MIT design thinking, this IDEO program, this run incubators in the state, run incubators with like large startup accelerator programs, and I'm taking the pieces that I'm like, this is what works. This is the stuff that works. All of the jargon, it just doesn't help people. I don't want to like learn a new lexicon. I want to learn how to run a business. So put that together. We call it Mindhive. Did a really short period of time. That's where I met Ben. That's where I met Dawn. Both of them are doing really cool things. So it's nice to have both of you on.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Dawn, I'm going to leave it to you. So introduce yourself. Give us like a story. I'm not going to ask you any questions. I want to hear like all the things that we've been talking about, and like what's happening. What's happening since the last year?
Yeah. So, if I veer off too far in one direction, just reel me back in. But as you mentioned, my name is Dawn Myers, founder and CEO at The Most, where we make hardware and appliances for women with highly textured hair. And when I say highly textured hair, I mean curly, kinky, afro-textured, wavy, extremely difficult to deal with hair. So you guys can't really see right now because I've had to like pull it back into a ponytail, but I was just texting with Callie before this, and I was freaking out like, oh my God, my hair is a mess and I can't wrangle it today. Like I need a few more minutes. Our hair, I think all women, have a lot of bouts with their hair, but women with highly textured hair, I think, get it the worst, and we have the fewest kind of tools on the market to help us deal with it. Now, when it comes to straightening our hair, there are tons of tools out there, right? We've got straightening irons and flat irons and curling irons, but for women with textured hair, those appliances are damaging. And if you want to embrace your natural aesthetic, which many of us these days do, you guys are probably seeing fewer and fewer or more and more women kind of with their hair in curls and kinks and waves than ever before. And the work that it takes to get that style is, you wouldn't even believe it if I told you. It takes hours. It takes me hours. It takes some women even longer. And it's a really painful process. And it's so painful and so disruptive to our lives that, it has all of these kind of ancillary consequences, right? It becomes more difficult to do things like work out. It becomes really difficult to do things like travel. So, I'm an athlete. I've always been an athlete. Now I dance quite frequently, but it's really difficult for me to dance and work out and sweat and then, have to deal with my hair. You work out, you sweat, you need to cleanse your scalp. But for me, that means that I'm going to be spending another 3 hours kind of doing my hair on the back end. I don't have that time. I run a business. I work for nonprofits. I do all kinds of stuff. I don't have time to do that every day, every other day. So what we're doing is we're building tools that address all of those pain points, and our featured product, the first product that we're bringing to market is the Most Mint, which is a hardware tool that infuses natural hair with the kind of liquids and hydration and moisture it needs to be healthy. So, that process is really kind of streamlining the process of detangling and product application. And we do that through a renewable cartridge that we call the Most Minis. They're kind of like Keurig K-Cups, except for hairstyling instead of coffee. And they're really cool because they make it a lot easier to travel. Because of those minis, we're able to put together a very compact, portable system, which makes it a lot easier for women to travel, which makes it a lot easier for people to style kind of unmoored from their vanity or bathroom sinks. And so that lets you go to the gym. We're not doing that right now, but hopefully in the future, if that's a thing we can do again. And it just makes the process a lot simpler. And so basically how our tools work, you can go online and see a demo at www.themostcurls.com. But how that works is you take your pod that comes pre-filled with whatever cream, oil, gel you'd like. You snap that into place into the tool. The tool very gently warms those products, which is really important for kind of moisture and hydration absorption for Afro textured hair. And then you run the tool through your hair very similar to the way you would a flat iron, but instead of getting damaged straightened hair, you get fully hydrated, detangled, styled Afro hair. So that's what we're working on. And in the process, so just kind of to fill you in more, Callie, we just had an investor and partner call last night that Callie was on. Thank you so much for joining. And we didn't get to go into too much detail, but I'll go into more detail here. So over the past year, we finished the Mindhive cohort, I think a year and a month ago. And since then, it's just been explosive. So after Mindhive, we did an additional 3 other accelerator kind of incubator programs, which was really great to make sure that we had a solid foundation and that our fundamentals were really sound. And then, we raised money. I did a few pitch competitions. We won money from some really awesome pitch competitions, including Shea Moisture, which is one of the biggest kind of curl hair brands in the country. They put on a pitch competition with Unilever's New Voices Fund, and we were one of the winners in that competition, which was awesome. And we just kept racking up the wins, right? We get a press mention here, we get a such and such there. And, we got to a point over the course of that year where we had fundraised enough where we could launch pre-sales. We had developed our product to a point where we could really demo it and show people, our functionality. And so we launched pre-sales late last year in December 2019, started generating revenue. And what I realized shortly after that, and this is something that Callie preached on a lot during our cohort, he said, fundraising is great, but fundraising isn't running a business. You run a business by generating revenue. And I heard him, but I hadn't quite connected the dots about how my company was going to generate revenue holistically. But it kind of unfolded over the course of last year. So again, as Callie can tell you, he really encouraged me to focus on social media. When I started Mindhive's cohort, I had 0 followers. I didn't have an Instagram account, like nothing. I had an old Twitter account that had like 1 follower. Since then, we have a total of over 8,000 followers over throughout all of our social media channels. And that's very much Callie's kind of prompting me and prodding me to get out there and tell our story, which has been incredibly effective. And so,
right. You have really good engagement, and and it's just, I know we mentioned it a little bit in the investor call, but you're bringing a really valuable audience and demographic along with you. It's not just about the product, like you're bringing a business package. When you have that audience, like if you have a list, that list is worth $1 per person on your list a month, right? If you Instagram less, LinkedIn less, YouTube maybe a little bit less, or on the same par, but like it's an asset for your business, and you can use it in so many ways, partnerships, and the savvy investor now, they're looking at that like that's business traction. Even though they're not just buying your product because it doesn't exist, there's so many other things that it gives you an opportunity to sell or get attention, or pull the, it's, you imagine like Unilever comes in and they're like, wow, like this is what we want to do. And here it is. It's just sitting on a platter for us. Yep. You start getting into the business mindset instead of the idea mindset. And you realize like, okay, this is a big deal. It's a lot bigger deal than just getting likes, but on the like side, you have great engagement. Right.
And we're getting great engagement. You know, we recently had we've gotten just some amazing people to come on to our channel. I mean, last night you were on with Jane Carter. And I don't know if you guys know Jane Carter, but she is the GOAT, like the old G, like she ran the game for a long time in hair until kind of Shea Moisture and Carol's Daughter and some of those other brands emerged. But, you know, she's on our advisory board, right? So we've started to kind of bring her in. We're starting to do lives with her. We're starting to do webinars with her. And you're right, like I didn't realize it for a long time. Like I heard you, but I didn't understand fully.
Mm-hmm.
I was so focused on the product. And I needed to be focused on the product to a certain extent, but it wasn't until late last year that I started to think, wait a second, we've got a whole business here that we're not even tapping into.
Yep.
Yeah, a whole business. And
I got to talk to you about this new thing
please.
that I'm doing called traction products. And it's like go way too in the weeds for this webinar right now, but it all just dovetails into this. Cause I mean, last year we were talking like, hey, you need a way to refine your message and make sure that it's resonating with people. And that's what social media does. So it's like pre-pitch planning, but also, you know, once you're wired in, you're really helping people and you know that that's what they want. You can build that audience, but like the thing that we barely touched on a year ago that you've done so effectively, I'd love for you to talk about this a little bit more, is that you become an attractor, right? You become an attractor for just an awesome team because you know what's up. Like, you know the real problems. Like, you've communicated with real people. People don't do a Google search for people anymore. They do a LinkedIn search, or they do an Instagram search, or they do a Facebook search. And when we're talking about highly visual brands, they're going to go to Instagram, and your Instagram is like locked down.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just something about knowing how to communicate with people in the context of like modern business, but that this is something I just have to know, like, how did that happen? You have all these excellent people around you. I'm not just talking about myself.
No, Kelly, you were one of the first. Honestly, like, it is worth talking about because you were one of the first, and because you were one of the first, it's snowballed. So here I am. I'm this, like, you know, Black girl from DC with no design background, with no technical background whatsoever. So when I walk into the room, people are like, who are you? And I have to mention that having you on our team, being able to put you on our slide deck, being able to call you for advice to make sure when I get on that call, I'm rattling off those numbers fluently. All of that is a lot of the reason that I've been able to accumulate all of those people around me. And so I think that's an important thing to start with, is to say, you know, you have to find really good people early on to fill in those holes that you don't have. I've got a lot of great things. Like, I'm not downing myself. I'm great. But, you know, Callie fills in some of the holes that I just don't have. And that was so important for us early on to get credibility with some of the other people around us that have, you know, gotten us a step further and a step further and a step further. So that's part of it. And then I think the other part of it is really being able to speak fluently to something that you know deeply. Even though, and I think that you guys probably kind of know this on some level, like, Black hair in the hardware space really doesn't, like, you know, nobody's like, oh yeah, that's sexy, I really want to get on that. Like, we're not like the hot new AI, you know, startup. We're not the hot new fintech startup. But what we do have, you know, I thought a lot when I started my company about doing something else that was a little sexier, but that I had less expertise and passion for. And I ended up going this way because in business, it's all about your beachhead, right? It's all about finding that, you know, group of people who you can really speak to and who you really understand, and then spreading out from there. So when we talk to, you know, Jewish women with curly hair, and Black women and Hispanic women and Arab women and mixed race women with curly hair, they, like, when I speak to their pain, I speak to it so fluidly because I know it better than anybody else, right? Like, I can speak about the things that, you know, corporate doesn't really have a whole lot of insight into. I mean, when you think about our industry, it's designed, like black hair has evolved over the years to be this thing that nobody knows about. You're not supposed to know about the process that we go through. We're supposed to look up, and like Beyonce, we're supposed to look like we woke up like this. Like that's the trick.
Yeah.
Right. So, it's not the kind of thing that your typical R&D guy over at Procter and Gamble is going to be able to get real insight into. Like he's not going to be able to see, all right, this is what Dawn's going through in the shower when she's detangling her hair. Like that's just not insight that they have. And so being able to speak really fluently to a specific issue, not only brought people like you into my sphere, but it also spoke to other Black women who had expertise in either marketing or tech or whatever it was, and we were able to bring them onto our team. So we've got this incredible circle of advisors and partners, but in addition to that, I've been able to build out this incredible team that I feel completely unworthy of every day. They're incredible. Like, I cannot tell you how incredible these women are. I mean, I'm sending texts at 2:00 in the morning. They got a response in 15 minutes. Like, I mean, they're just as passionate as I am. It's incredible that I stumbled across these women, and I stumbled across them through that messaging, right? Going on live, talking about the problem, talking about the things that they can't talk about on TV because they don't know what we go through. And so it's turned into this, again, it's turned from this focus on developing a product to developing a business around the messaging related to that product.
Because here's our buzzword, right? And I'm going to embed this in your mind just one more time, is a product is a strategy for a moment in time.
Yeah. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right. Your brand is forever. Your brand is the asset. Right. And, I got it. I got the niche right away. And I'm like, this is what she's going to do, is if she can hit this niche and something that you're passionate about, that you can communicate with, it's like cheat mode, first of all.
Yeah.
But when you build that core audience, you're building fans and followers. Nobody's really a fan of Chase Bank or FinTech, right? The investors are looking at it as a pure money play, whereas you have a pure audience brand access play. So really, when you're approaching it from that customer first mentality, this is the group of people I actually care about and I'm going to serve. It's not about the product. It's about the 1,000 problems that these people have, and then collecting all of these solutions and bringing them the solutions, whether you have it or somebody else has it. And that access is valuable at the same level of the FinTech. That's the thing. And a smart investor is going to be like, well, it's only a multi-billion-dollar market. It's bigger. It's bigger than an AI marketing play. It's just, it just requires you to actually work and think about it and be intentional about serving people versus putting out a code and it being a one-shot B2B play. Mm-hmm. And it's just so cool, because even people that have been in your spot, I give them the map and say well, messaging is what's going to kill it for you. That's really what's going to make it go, because we have our tribe concept, and unless you can authentically communicate with that group of people, you can never enter the market. Like, big companies can't enter your market, right?
Right.
It's really hard for new entrants to enter your market, because you have to put in all this work,
Right.
You have to put in all this work to build a team. You put in all this work to build authenticity and trust and in value. And most people are just like, I don't know, I just want to make this hair thing. And they give up, and they give up, because if it was just like that, all you have to do is pick up the phone and I'm going to make that thing for you.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm going to give you a bill. But if you had 1 million followers and you were like, I want to make this thing, I'd be like, whatever you want to make, I'm going to make it for you.
Right.
Here's the price, $0. Let's figure it out.
Give me some of those residuals.
Yeah. Cause you have leverage, and it's just awesome to see that pan out on the stage 1, honing the messaging, stage 2, building the audience, and stage 3, building the team, and the investors actually getting it and being like, oh, we're running a modern sensible business. We're not running like a give me money back as fast as you can business.
Right.
It's killer.
Yeah. And what we realized, again, it took a minute for me to get there. Like you kept saying that your product is a strategy for a moment in time. And I was like, okay, but I didn't really understand
What else
it.
do I have?
Right. But then, over the course of this past year, we started to realize, I'm going to say in like December of last year, wait a minute, there's like 7 other streams of revenue that we could be.
Yeah.
And then I think it was like last week, we had a meeting and we mapped out some more streams of revenue. We came up with 14 new streams of revenue we could be kind of inching into.
That's what Traction Products is. It's additional streams of revenue to organically grow marketing, resources, messaging.
That's right.
In a revenue positive way for hardware startups.
That's right.
So information products, events, consulting. So we create hardware products, but we create a channel for them first. And we create a channel of value and trust, because it's hard to sell a premium product. And I always want to sell something the most. The most. I want to sell the best thing, right? Because why not, right? It takes me the same amount of time to do the books for something when you're selling the coolest thing versus like, a whatever thing. So why not, make something great? But like, it's like that requires more trust, right? To sell something that's premium requires more trust and more value and more brand. And it's like, how do you get there? And what you're mapping out, like we've got to collaborate on this, because this is what Traction Products, it's boiling over, because MVPs are dead.
Yeah.
MVPs are dead. Traction Products are where it's at.
Yeah. I'm realizing that everybody's like, okay, so you have an MVP, so what? Like there's still a chasm to cross.
Yep. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, like I said, if you could crack off 35K, you could get a legit production quality product. If you had 100K to put in, you could get a whole bunch of them and get them out to the market. So it's like, how do I cross that chasm? I'm like, stop being in the business of failing, be in the business of like, you have these people, their problems. There's probably a way you could solve it for zero money in 1 week.
Yeah.
Right? So like, let's be in that business.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it doesn't have to be. So when I thought about business, we're in the startup world and everybody's like, I'm making 85K a month. I'm making 90K a month. And I'm looking at these people like, what are you doing?
And then they go out of business.
But also, if I'm honest, I was a little intimidated maybe. I'm looking at this like, what can I put out that's going to make $80,000 a month? Well, nothing by itself, right? But when you combine all of these kind of revenue streams, all of a sudden you turn around and you're like, oh shit, I've got
monetized.
You add this stuff up and it works. And one of the things that I'm really excited about, so we're doing a lot right now, obviously around our social media, we're monetizing social media and doing sponsored posts and doing sponsored stories. And, we're putting out webinars for all of these women who are at home struggling with their hair like I was today. Teaching them how to do different styles and how to protect their hair while they're at home and maximize growth, all that stuff. Great. But one of the things that we realize, I think our biggest asset is data. So we are collecting so much information about, again, these routines and practices that the market is, there's a big kind of iron curtain up where the folks who are making the decisions can't see what's going on behind the scenes, but they know, they're starting to understand that new majority consumers, right? People of color who we know are going to kind of change the kind of fabric of our country, statistically and numerically over the course of the next couple of decades. So you think about the Procter & Gamble's and the Unilevers. If you look at TV, all of a sudden, every P&G commercial you see has a bunch of Hispanic people in it. And every Unilever commercial you see has somebody speaking Spanish. And you're probably looking at, why are they doing that? Like, my neighborhood hasn't changed. Why are they broadcasting that here? They're doing that because they realize that they need to capture this new majority consumer early so that as their buying power grows, they're already in there. And one of the ways you do that, obviously, is by understanding that person's problems, is by understanding what that person needs, is by understanding how that person's life and values and everything differs from what's already out there. And what we realize is that we are in a position to collect a lot of data that, the kinds of companies that tend to collect this kind of data don't have any insight into. And so we're really kind of doubling down on that. And right now we're just building out the infrastructure.
Yep.
And doing a really slow campaign, right? Over the next 6 months, we are very slowly collecting this information, making sure it's tight, seeing where the holes are, going back in, filling those holes. And then toward the end of the year, the plan is to kind of put that in an industry report, obviously leave some teasers so that we can get some consulting gigs thereafter. But these are all really powerful revenue streams that it took me a long time to see. And I think the point that I'm making here is, just keep going, right? Like,
Yes.
It's not going to be clear. Like, I was in your cohort and you were so encouraging, but I couldn't see the big picture, right? And so it was incumbent upon me to just get to the next level, get to the next stage. A few things start to open up for you. Then you get a team and you get their ideas, and then more things start to open up. And then you get this amazing, panel of advisors and investors, and then things really start to open up. The goal is to just keep going and do what you can in that moment, and whatever opportunity there is, like in front of you at that minute, seize upon that, and that will open more doors.
Yep. Yeah. So like while everyone else is sending out Survey Monkey links to have people take boring surveys and they're like, get a $20 gift card. I don't know how many times I tell people you'll never get good answers because those people don't care about you. They care about the gift card, right? So you're not going to get anything good. Traction products create a feedback engine because they're paying with dollars or time or their presence. They care enough that their feedback of participating or listening has value. So there's some tricks that we can talk about like offline of cool things that I'm seeing that are working, like quiz funnels. People feel like they're having fun, but it really directs them towards an information product.
I love it.
A video, but you're really getting the data. It's all about the data, right? But while everybody else is making these surveys, which I'm like, have some emotional intelligence. When's the last time you filled out a survey that you didn't hate, right?
Yeah.
You're going beyond customer interviews, right? And you're getting customer feedback based on actual real products, and you can pull so much data out of that, participation data and like actual use and problem data that, yeah, you're right. The next stage when you want to go to B2B and post something on LinkedIn and get it in front of, Procter and Gamble,
Right.
it's a history report. And it's based on actual paying customers and testimonials and like real meat. And it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy what you can do. And you can see a lot of my posts where I'm like, I'm always trying to get, what's your biggest challenge? What's your biggest obstacle? And like, I'm trying to eat my own dog food right now. I'm like, I've taught a couple of people to do this, and now I'm like, okay, I need to do this with my own content. I need to be getting this data, right? I need to get the data back. I don't want CB insights and say, hey, X percentage, some absurd percentage of startups fail because they build something that people don't want. Like everybody's heard that before, but I did my own data and I know that it's actually not true. The over 90% of the people that start businesses fail because they don't even get started.
Yep.
Right. So like their report is wrong for emerging entrepreneurs. They should say something like, out of this small segment of people that are funded in their first year, they build something with the capital that they've raised that nobody wants, which I'm like, great. But if I had better data, I could have been the person to put out that report, which everyone cites and everyone reads. So like, how do I do that? Well, I create content and I create funnels and I create, I actually engage people, build an audience and engage people and try to get that data,
Yeah.
Then I build what they want.
Yeah. Right. like you can't know what to build unless you're, establishing that feedback loop and having that conversation. Like I can't build a product for me. I am not my market. Even though there's lots of overlap and I can message to that market. One of the things that's been really interesting to me as we continually do these client interviews that we started at Mindhive, we, try to constantly every month make sure that we're having conversations with consumers. And it's so interesting because the process, we're definitely nail on the head. The major pain point that we've identified continues to be the pain point. But what's been really interesting to me is that in my head, this is how I do my hair, right? I have my process and it looks totally different for every other woman. Like every woman that I talk to has their own special process and their own special like little secret sauce and you can't know what that looks like in their private time, in their bathrooms when they're not posting to live or whatever. You can't know what that looks like unless you're engaging in a deep conversation. And we've kind of, we haven't done quizzes, but that's a really good idea that I'm totally going to incorporate. But we have done a lot of IG. So, with IG stories, how you can do polls and take quizzes. Yep. We tend to collect a lot of data through those channels. And so I'm really interested to hear what some of your other kind of tips and tricks are to get people engaged, because that's definitely something we're doubling down on right now.
The quiz funnels are funny because the really poor ones are basically surveys, right? But the fun ones are like, which Kardashian are you?
That's good. Yeah.
Which Kardashian is your hair? And people are like, oh, and they click. But what it really is it's just a fun way of asking the same questions. And people click, and then you're like, hey, out of all of these people that we targeted on Facebook, this group of people, everyone responded, this percentage have this issue and identify with this solution.
Yeah.
But like they really just felt like they were playing a game.
Right.
But you can segment the answers into different lists.
Yep.
And you can serve those lists like an email automation or give them a specific landing page, or just, there's all kinds of crazy stuff that people are doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's the key is like emotional intelligence though. It's like trying to talk to people, in your case, about their hair, about their life, their lifestyle. Like the quiz should be about that, right? It should be fun and it should give them instant value and like, put a smile on their face, whatever. But everybody wants to just send out that Survey Monkey link that's like, give me your problems, and they know that they're being sold to right away.
Right. Yeah, I think that's right. And I thought about you a couple of days ago because I was having a conversation with, as you know, I'm doing interviews with a ton of manufacturers in different states, and just trying to get a sense of, pricing, timing, what they look like during COVID, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I thought about you because I know that you're kind of involved in Loudoun County. Mm-hmm. And I was having a conversation with this person is connected to a fund that's kind of state run. And the entire kind of thesis here is this fund would kind of fund companies in an effort to get and keep startup founders in this region. Okay. And I interviewed with this fund, and it was clear right off the bat that this person didn't take me seriously. Like it was very clear right off the bat that this person was like, okay, hair care. And so, he started off by saying, I really don't see this as a tech product, even though our product is very clearly a tech product. He was like, I don't really see it. So I had to like break it down to him, which I thought was weird, but fine. And then, he told me that he couldn't fund us because we were a consumer product, so here's the thing. I'm in an accelerator that's hardware focused called NextFab. And in that,
it's a great program, by the way.
It's an incredible program. I'm really proud that we were able to get in there.
Yeah. That's a big get.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And the people who are in my cohort are just incredible, and they have these incredible companies and awesome backgrounds, and it's been amazing to learn from them. But I digress. So I happen to know that one of the folks in my accelerator they're making a pivot to consumer products and they're still being funded. And I did some digging, and I talked to some other women who look like I do, and they told me that they had the same thing. They had the numbers, they had the metrics, they had everything there, and they were completely written off. Yep. And so what does that mean for me, right? Like I'm not gonna, invest. It's a lot more difficult for me to invest my time, my money, more myself and my company to a particular region when that region and the decision makers therein don't look at me as a serious investor. And that kind of brings me to, what I want to talk about around kind of investing in people and kind of looking beyond what we, I think, typically tend to see as the, sexy verticals or, the more serious verticals. When we talk about empathy and when we talk about making money, all of that, we can't have a conversation about moving product without having a conversation about understanding our communities and understanding what moves them and understanding their values. And, I think it's really important for the folks in these regional organizations to look outside of their box about what is tech and what is adequately sophisticated and what is worthy of their time and investment. Because, I'll tell you, and not to like brag or toot my own horn, but there are very few rooms that I walk into where I'm not one of, if not the most credentialed person in the room, right? There are very few rooms that I walk into where, I don't have corporate experience or business experience that rivals whoever else is in that room. And so, but it's really important for me personally to cater to my community and people who look like me. And so I'm saying all this to say, I think it's really important for all of these ecosystems, whether I'm in DC or Virginia or Baltimore or Ohio or wherever, it's really important for all of us as a community to look outside of our box, right? We've got to stop writing people off because they don't look like what we expect them to look like, or because they have a product that we don't necessarily resonate with. What's important, as you were saying, is whether or not that founder can resonate with another community, whether or not they can speak to another community. And we've got to focus a little bit more on that and kind of veer away from, having our checklist of things that look good.
Well, I see a lot of I see a lot of talk like in that kind of investor community about getting off, and it's a little of the getting out of the hype train of business funding. And I'm not quite ready to commit myself to an angel group right now, but I'm looking at them, and a lot of their investment theses I just don't agree with. And I think that quite honestly, their track record, their return track record shows that this as well, is they don't understand something that should be really, really absurdly apparent, is that this aside is like health and beauty is the largest industry, right? Commercial beauty, it's massive, right? And and manufacturing physical product, it's $1 trillion industry, right? So tech is not even close to the size of the auto industry, right? Which is just a portion of manufacturing. So like you can wrap your head around that. All of the tech is a fraction of what is actually created in that other industry. Everything has to be made, but health and beauty, it's like an evergreen.
Yeah.
It's easy to sell through additional product. It's one of the biggest markets. It's easy to acquire and do collaboration deals and purchase deals. So it's easy to exit. So like that's insane. First of all, that's aside, like that's an insane thing, because probably a lot easier to go through an acquisition cycle of a health and beauty product than of a tech product, right? There's no tech debt either. It's just a brand thing. They want to have access to your customers. You have 20,000 customers. They're worth $1,000 a piece. Boom.
Yep.
That's the value of your business. They might want your product as well, but most likely they just want your customers, and they're way more valuable than users on a small, even social media platform. So
Yeah.
that's aside. So that's crazy. But I think that some of the local programs, they have their investment thesis, they have what they're looking for. And I've sat some of those meetings. I won't like name the organizations. I do
Sure.
think that TEDCO in Maryland does a pretty decent job, but they're very tech focused again. And they're looking for like moonshots, where the reason that I like hardware, my manufacturing background aside, is that if you set it up right, it's a business. It's a real business. It's not like a speculative moonshot thing. You set it up, people need it, they buy it, and that's it, right? You can grow it as much as you can stand, but it's not like a 10,000x or zero situation. It's like a 2x, 10x, 100x. Like we can't control ourselves.
Yeah.
But the access is why they don't understand it. And that's the biggest value of your business from today to the next 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Selling the platform of the access is that you appeal to the biggest buying demographic, female buying demographic in America. It's a growing red hot demographic, and it goes across backgrounds and goes across, and so we talk about appealing to niche groups, and like my podcast just launched and was talking about customer segments and niches. But like when you really niche down to really help somebody, they have intentional buying behavior, right? When you create a product for them, they as a member of that have intent to buy. So like, it drives me nuts talking to people about hardware products, and I tell them like the hardware product is it's a customer acquisition play.
Strategy.
It's a strategy, and we create fans with hardware versus just customers like with software, right?
Yeah.
So like you'll find more and more investors who are coming to my side of things that are saying, hey, I want to create a fund where I want to invest in people like Dawn because I understand the thesis of access, and I understand the thesis of actually creating a product that really resonates with a core group of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can see the network effect. Like if I already had a product in your space, I would be like, yes, because I can instantly 10x your business, right?
Yeah.
And then I get another one and I can 30x the businesses, and I can get another one and 40x the businesses, because it's all a multiplier, right? But if you have a broad market product, like my customer segments don't connect.
Yeah. And we're leaving money on the table, right? If we are kind of going after these kind of traditional tech verticals that appeal to the same kind of person, you're just leaving money on the table for everybody else. Like we're all in this to make money at the end of the day. Yeah, I'm passionate about my product, but at the end of the day, I want a paycheck. And I'm assuming that you and everyone else does too. And, we're just doing all of ourselves a disservice by not kind of looking out of that box. So I'm really excited to see that trend. I see it happening, but of course there are kind of those frustrating holdovers that, I think, pose a real threat to kind of up and coming founders like myself. That capital, it's the fuel on the fire. It's such an important part of, and that support also in those networks, such an important part of the puzzle. We just got to open that up a little bit more to, a lot of deserving founders with great ideas.
Can you give us some tips from your background and just general tips about going and pitching to investors? What you've seen, what works, what doesn't work? What were some surprises that you've gotten along the way? Because you've been pretty successful right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say one of the things that we don't talk about enough is the application, right? So before you even get to the pitch, you're usually either sending an email or you're applying to a pitch competition, whatever it is. And I'm not sure that we talk enough about the mechanics of that process. I'd say, one of the biggest things I would say is make it as simple for that person as possible. Right now I'm reviewing, literally on my screen is a bunch of pitch candidates for Veneta. And, there are people who have locks on an account so that maybe a DocuSign or another program that they use so they can track who's going into that document. I get that inclination, but you also want to make it as easy for that person as possible. You've got people who are reviewing tens, if not more, dozens of applications, and you want that person to be able to move through as quickly as possible. So I would say, I think that just removing as many barriers as possible, being very clear and to the point, is really important. On the other end of that spectrum, I think it's also important to provide context in the application process. So they may ask you a question: how much money have you, been able to generate this month? That number may be 0 for a variety of reasons. Maybe you've paused because you're redoing your website. I don't know what your issue is. But then, maybe you engage with that startup later down the line and you find out that there was really justifiable context there that wasn't provided. And I think it's really incumbent upon founders to, we are leaders. We think out the box, and we have to be able to, even when somebody asks a question, understand the larger kind of aim of that question and speak to that, right? So if I, as an investor or, ecosystem architect, whatever it is, if I'm trying to figure out, how viable your business is, you may not be generating money at the moment, but there may be real context there that helps inform my decision around that. So I would say, rather than letting other people dictate a straight answer, you want to kind of answer around that question in a way that makes you look great still, while still being truthful and transparent. So, those are a couple of tips that I would give on the application itself. Usually applications require some kind of video or a pitch deck. There are different theories on this, but I really believe that design quality and an eye for design really goes a long way, and really can make up for a lot of deficiencies in one's application. So spending time on design, even if you're not spending a ton of money, that may be as simple as going to an app like Beautiful AI or SlideBean, where they've done a lot of the beautifying work for you. Those are really great options. And I think that, even though we're focused on content, we're focused on substance, that design can really fill in a lot of gaps. So I think, pre-pitch, those are some, I think that those are really important points that we don't talk about as much. For the pitch itself, I would say, so I think there are a lot of different people who have a lot of different styles that work. And it's taken me a while to figure out what my style is. My style is a little bit more conversational. And for me, it's about finding that perfect kind of line between being conversational and natural and organic and being super duper 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 prepared. So in order to have a prepared organic conversation for me, that means envisioning all of the offshoots that conversation could take and preparing for that and having a spiel ready for that and having in my head a basic outline of my response so that I can still be conversational and I can still be natural with that person while also, knowing what I'm going to say and knowing what I'm talking about. That's definitely been really helpful for me. I think that's the lawyer in me. I think, I have to prepare, I just have to prepare for whatever scenario is going to come. But yeah, that's
how many times have you pitched where to get that,
God.
To get that
a
level?
A lot. I mean, I've done at this point, somebody was just asking me this, I think I've done at this point maybe 50 pitches, and that's not including the informal pitches that you have to get the warm introduction to actually get the pitch meeting, right? So it's been a lot, and it's a numbers game, honestly. Like I'm still really early in the game, right? Like this is a numbers game. I won't be able to say that I've done my due diligence with respect to kind of pitching investors until I'm on, pitch number 200. We're kind of on our way there. And quite frankly, right now we're taking a pause because COVID, and it doesn't really make sense to approach people who you don't have existing relationships with, except in very limited circumstances. But yeah, I've probably done 50 formal pitches. I can't tell you how many informal pitches I've done. And then on top of that, I can't tell you how many times I've run my pitch or some iteration thereof in front of the mirror to try to get to that place where I'm comfortable. So, it takes a lot of practice.
So I'm getting a couple of takeaways from that. So like one thing that we always say is you have to give yourself the excuse to not be great if you want to get great at something.
Yes.
Right? So there is no person unless they have some public speaking or sales background, and then their pitch content is probably still going to be pretty poor, but
right.
Most people the whole thing is poor.
Yeah.
Right? That's why we do like, pitching inside the group and then pitching to a friendly audience and then, pitching to a slightly friendly audience, because it's not like a natural thing. You'd be a really weird person if that was like a natural talent that you had. I would want to know what your background is. So
right.
That's the one thing. And yeah, that it being the numbers game is so true. So there's absurd numbers that people have is like, 100 to get every 100 meetings to get every X dollars is like an average. It's like if you want to get $1 million, I think the average is 140 something meetings to get $1 million of funding. And there's people on both sides of that spectrum. And as an aside, Slidebeam, their YouTube channel is the best.
Kaya is the GOAT. Yeah. I love him.
People want me to give them like a template for their pitches, or like, tell them how to make a pitch deck. And I'm like, I tell you how to get the information that goes in the pitch deck.
Yeah.
The guys at Slidebeam are like so beyond, like, I'm not even going to try to replicate that. Just go, they'll tell you exactly what should be in a short one and a long one, why it should be there. Their tool is amazing.
Amazing.
They have that covered. Now, when you want to know like how you fill out that slide, that's what Callie does, right? But like, yeah, shout out to them for but the other takeaway that I got, and this is like a big highlight, is finding your authentic voice, your style, right? People want to make business weird. They want to make it like a non-human, like weird thing where we put on a different character than ourselves. And then how do you evolve past that? If somebody was interested in your business, right? If they were interested in Dawn, how do you evolve past that and say, well, that was like a weird version of me. Like I'm not actually that person. And now let's build a relationship that's based on what I don't know. So finding your authenticity and finding like cadence that works for you is such a big deal.
Can I pause there? Because I think another really important thing is knowing your values. I think a lot of people have a lot of different values in the space, and people operate slightly differently. I think it's really important for you to know what you stand for, whether that's, I'm really big on transparency. What I tell people all the time is I'm not losing my bar license over a startup. And so, it's really important for me to be transparent. It's really important for me to be maybe a little bit more conservative in my estimates, even when I know that I'm dealing with an investor who wants to see something that's, really blown up and crazy. That's not how I operate. And I have to know that of myself.
It's very refreshing for the startup role, because I feel like you're running more of a business than a startup, honestly. You're just using the startup, that stream, to get started, but you're running a business.
Yeah.
Realistic, but yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's think. I don't know. I definitely want to catch up, offline and see. I want to talk to you about some strategies.
Yes.
But I don't know. It's really great to catch up a little bit the other day and then catch up right now. So
yes, it's been really great. And Callie, I just want to pause and again, I'm starting to monetize all of the kind of assets that I have. One of the assets that I have is kind of understanding how to do a massive career transition, and how to do that into the hardware space, right? Again, I've got a long way to go, but you have given me such clear gems and jewels. And now I have people who I coach on building their products and building their companies, and a lot of that is a lot of it is like me hearing like, how would Callie respond to this, or how would Callie think through this, and what you're doing is, I believe it's really important. So I'm gonna get back on my soapbox for just a second, but I think that all tech generally, but hardware in particular, is a really important tool for any community to improve quality of life, right? But when we think about certain communities that don't have access to all kinds of things, great medical care and great education and nutrition and just all of the things that make a good life good, hardware and tech are really awesome tools to help people on the ground who identify those problems and who understand those problems in a really visceral way. It's a really incredible tool for them to create for their own communities and to better those own communities. And because of you, and because of our relationship, and because of just all of the gems that you've constantly been spilling onto me, I've been able to pour those into other people and help those other people build their companies and their solution for their community. And some of the folks that I deal with are maybe doing a little knick-knack. Some people are solving real problems for their classroom. Some people are solving real problems for this kind of medical condition that is specific to their community. And I just want to thank you for what you've been doing, putting this information out there and giving us the roadmap, because I think that over time, it really has the potential to yield dividends for communities that really, really need new products and new tools to just fill in all the gaps that they don't have. So just again, thank you so much for what you do.
I appreciate that so much, because I 100% believe that entrepreneurship is the pathway to changing the world. That innovation through entrepreneurship, we are able to move the needle. We're able to move society and change the world better than any charity can do it, better than the government can do it, because we're doing it with intent. Like, we have the fuel, we have the ideas, like we have the action to do it. So because we're putting our lives and our livelihood to change our lives, on the line to make it happen, we have to make it happen, right? It's not just something else that we're involved in. It is what we are, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So it's a really big deal for me. And I just appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Callie.
Let me just check the chat here. Do we have any questions from anybody while we have Dawn? I know I'm going to get a bunch of questions on the replay, but it's been a little while. I might have Ben say something just because we got him right now.
Yeah, we need an update from the first Mindhive cohort.
Yeah, there you go. Here.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, I was messing with your settings.
No problem. Yeah,
Let me
put my camera on or anything.
No. You should be able to do everything now.
True.
Cool.
Awesome.
What's up, Ben?
I'm doing well. I didn't even really think about putting anything in the chat. I forgot that it was even there. I was gonna say, but both you guys killed it. That was awesome.
So
damn, I wish I could say something here, but like I said,
Ben got our mutual friend Paul to join his team, and was able to get some tech help as well, because just reaching out there and putting it out there. But Ben, can you give us an update? What's the Vine Tech plan? What's happening, man?
So right now, I can just kind of I'll give like a bit of a background, like our team situation right now. We originally started with 5 guys. As of last Wednesday, it's now just me on like the core team. Like I told you, Callie, we're doing application. Josh had left in February. Josh, like I don't know, you probably remember him. He left in February. Like my good friend Jacob, who'd been working with us for like a year and a half now. He left last Wednesday, and I mean, like I said, it's kind of like it doesn't like hurt me anymore. It hurt me at all, like morale. I kind of just it's like unfortunate that I'm like the only one in it now. Because at the end of the day, like I know this business all along is like, or at least since the fall, like it's really just needed me. And like I'm not saying that like being cocky like that. It's just been like no one else has been putting like the work that I have, and like I've been really disappointed by like the guys, like, especially with things that have gone on with like Josh, I co-founded with, like people really just weren't like helping me out, and I wasn't seeing like myself and these other people. Like I expected like like all them to be doing these things and working as hard as I was, especially like once you're co-founder, but that wasn't happening. It's really disappointing. So now it's it's just me, and then like I have like the great advisory team. I have Paul, like Callie was talking about, who's honestly I feel like Paul helps me out more than anybody else could. Like he's an awesome guy.
Paul's amazing.
Basically like a member like my team more than like an advisor, I'd say. Like he's a mentor and everything too. And then we have a couple guys on the team who are advisors, who are like actual vineyard owners. One is in Fauquier County and in Chris Pearman, and then also we have Doug Fabioli in Loudoun County, who we're working really closely with now. And then again, like having our tech team, which is a company called 923 Digital, who's based out of Boston. I've been working with them since probably last June, I'd say. And then we also met them through Paul, because Paul is probably the most connected guy I know.
Wow.
Something else. Yeah, I remember that was kind of the first like way I got like an introduction to him. But anyway, enough of that. Like, so what we're working on right now, basically our original goal was to have a product that was working in vineyards this current grow season, which is pretty much April to October. But now we switched to more of just kind of like so we ended up, I don't know, we made our first sale in December with our our hero customer and our advisor, Chris Perriman, which is kind of like an assumed thing. We just had to make a kind of official ask to him to be a customer, but but we ended up kind of working on things more and more. Like, all right, I think, there's still like a lot for us to learn. We really need to get out there and start working with a lot of vineyards like more closely, rather than just, we are doing the same thing that we've been doing like in Mindhive, doing a ton of customer interviews, doing the same thing you guys were talking about through all this. And again, it's just like, our biggest issue was like, we didn't have anybody on the team who actually was like in the industry. Again, like, I'm learning tons and tons. I'm out at vineyards, still with this going on. I've been at vineyards like at least a few times a week working with them. But at the same time, there's nobody on our team who's like a tenured, vineyard owner, manager, viticulturist, anything like that, when most of these people in this industry are people who've, been in for their whole lives or 20, 30 years. So it's definitely a bit hard to infiltrate sometimes, but, having Chris Perriman and Doug Fabioli, those kind of guys on our team, really helps us out. But we decided kind of the best thing to do for this season was to kind of take a step back and do more of like a data collection effort. Basically we're working with these vineyards and basically collecting all their spray data, helping them with their inventory management. I'm only doing with Chris and Doug right now. So again, it's all free. It's not, I'm not charging any money from it. We did get like the money from Chris Perriman, which he let us keep, it was awesome of him. Even though we decided to change things up, but overall, I mean, it's been going well. Like I said, definitely get like a bit of like morale hit with like, maybe the only one left, but I still have like a lot of guys, like, good guys on my side. I think the team might need to like make it happen. But yeah, it's been good. We haven't really been doing any pitch competitions or innovation challenge and stuff. I've kind of been trying to get back into that now. Like we talked with Callie about the Loudoun one. Got like results from that.
We had some good strategy talk pre-COVID, but we should definitely talk about how I would implement traction products for VineTech. But there's definitely some interesting opportunities there, especially in the event marketing space.
Yeah.
And getting people together. But
yeah, and I do remember that. Yeah, I was like Don was saying, like her team and her have met and they've discussed a lot of different like revenue sources and things like that could come into play. That could, like you said, Don, you're talking like, you hear all these people talking like I'm making like upper five, like 6 figures a month. Like how the heck do I do that? But like you said, it can't just come from one thing. It's got to come from multiple things more often than not. And that's kind of the same thing we discovered early on too, especially when we partnered with our development team. Really like, all right, like in our core like subscription model SaaS product is like, that's like our core revenue source. Then we also, can work with like different like for vineyards, for these spray companies that produce these chemicals or manufacture these chemicals that the growers buy from. You can partner with these chemical companies to get like their proprietary sprays on your app. There's also, again, like you were talking about, like a massive data collection, and like with us, like that's something that is bigger, like that we're doing more than anything, especially kind of with an AI ML product. And that's what kind of our goal was with this grow season, is to spend a lot of time at vineyards and track like literally everything they're doing. Like I have these massive data sheets I've like, put together like over time, and, more so over these past month meeting with these vineyards again. But that like mass data collection again is going to do nothing but, it's going to obviously strengthen our system and, help it make better decisions when it actually comes to the time where the decision-making tool is being implemented for sprays next grow season. And, we'll be testing that throughout the season. But, at the same time, all that data can be like, either the growers can either be sold back to the growers, sold to these chemical companies, sold to, I guess any, ag tech, like massive ag company.
You're so close. I think, Ben, what we need to do is you, me, and Paul set aside some time, like on a Saturday or Sunday, set aside, a few hours, and we need to map out the kernel, right? And then like the next little piece. Because when you say data, like I'm going to think about Paul, and that's what I was saying, Don, like when you start talking data, we've got some people for you to talk to.
Yeah.
Right. And data is like, if you own that data, like your business explodes. It's an asset no matter what. Mm-hmm. You can even put it on your books as an asset, right? Mm-hmm. So like, let's talk about data. Let's talk about training. Let's talk about events. Let's talk about like how we go from here to here, where then the VineTech app becomes like the natural, easier way to do the thing that's already making you money.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
That's where you need to do that. Like everybody wants to solve a tech challenge. Vineyard owners just want good wine. They want to have margins to stay in business, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're over here with what you're offering, and like they're over here. So like, how do you get what you're offering to be totally in aligned with what their goal is, like what their life's about,
Yeah, and that's like definitely kind of what I've been obviously, even though we're kind of like simplifying this season, and like I said, just focusing on the data collection and those few other things as well. Just, again, I'm just still trying to learn. Like this is going to be a learning process for me for a long time. As long as
I think you're right there, and like everybody's going to be super salty that they were like, yeah, I was right there with Ben too, and they're in the weeds and it looks like a bunch of work, and then you step back and you say, man, that was like the coolest thing.
Yeah. Again, and I know, like I said, I know still like this is 100% what I'm set on doing. I know like it's not, I'm just gonna see this through, and like whatever capacity it is. And like you're saying, Kyle, I do think like we're right there, and I know like it's like I was saying, it's super hard to infiltrate this industry, and these people like are not like very receptive when it comes to things. But you just have to find like a certain amount of people. You have to find like enough people who can get you to that tipping point, where like eventually everyone will come. And the two people we're working with are two like the biggest and most reputable like vineyard and viticulture names in Virginia, and like they'll always still like hit people up for me and like, oh, like this is what they're doing, like this is what VineTech's doing, you should talk to Ben. Like
I'll talk to you with some strategies about authority hacking that will get you right there where your brand is synonymous with their brand, and like you'll be able to have the people come to you.
I went in on that conversation too.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely would love like that's all talk more. That's what I was thinking when you guys were having this conversation.
You're like naturally doing it anyway. You've got a couple people on your team that it uses the authority hacking system that I have.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But you're already seeing like what I'm saying, but like, yeah, 100%. You can get in on that too.
Yeah, I'd love to do that, because that's the thing. Like I know, like again, like I've never not once heard from any of these vineyards again. Like it's not like none of them like, oh, we don't need this. Like, this is just going to be a hassle for us to do. It's like, this is not like, it's not like a solution looking for a problem. It's a, it's a solution for an actual problem. It's not, again, we found it out, again, through Mindhive and going and talking to all these vineyards, because we originally thought we had a solution for a problem. And then we went out and talked to people like, yeah, we don't want that. We need something to help with this. Found that out, worked from that ever since. And, I wouldn't still be doing this if I wasn't getting the reception. Like, yeah, this is like something that needs to change. Like, it needs innovation. So, that's what I'm working towards. And I know like the people I've built relationships already are like people, again, like I do the same thing I did with Chris Pearman, just, build their relationship like over the seasons, over the months, like year, whatever it may be. And then by the time you get to the actual ask of them for them to buy your product or, sign off your subscription, like it's just like, again, it's just a given. Like, you just have to go and ask them. It's a formality. Like, of course I'll do it. Like, I wouldn't have given you a year of my time if I wasn't going to pay money for this. Yep. So it's pretty cool. And like, it's, again, like I'm still like super motivated and excited by it. And
we'll talk about a couple things. One is how you create a category for what you're selling, right? How you completely align what you're selling to what their actual goal is. Because I can tell you that inventory tracking their pesticides, they don't want to do that. Even if they need to do it, they don't want it, right? So like, if you're selling it, like the way to sell it is definitely not like, hey, I can help you with this problem. It's that I can get you the result that you want, right? So like, we can talk about solution selling, but like let's the main things that we need to talk about besides like the traction products of how we're going to get there is the authority hacking piece, which you're on the right pathway to. Sorry, I have my dog in my lap, like worming around. We'll talk about the what you can actually create revenue from, but
definitely. And that's like Paul is super like always on me about, like, because Paul again is like a big guy. He's like in the content creation. He does a lot with like his or content creation, whatever, maybe with his like all his crypto stuff and crypto curator and his daily and weekly newsletters, all that. So he's always on us, or I guess just me now. He's always on like we should create like a podcast. We should create like this. And we used to do like newsletters and blogs and stuff, then kind of stop with that for a bit. But so you guys should create like a podcast and this and that. And like, I'm going to these vineyards and having these conversations with the owners and, going through their day with them and learn as much as I can. And, I just be like, hey, like, while I'm here, I want to set aside half an hour to talk to you about like these things. And basically, because some of these guys, like whether it's vineyard related or not, like have like some of the coolest stories I've ever heard. Like Chris Pearman, I mean, this guy has done like an unreal amount of stuff, like inside and outside the industry, and he's been all over the world. Like, I mean, I could talk to him forever just about like the life he's lived, and how he's like the success he's had in business and in the viticulture industry and all that. And I'd love to do a podcast to talk about that.
You're going out and talking to those guys, dude. I can tell you, like, you might think that you're like, oh man, this is, I'm having another conversation like this, but that's like, people want to see that. Everybody that drinks wine in Virginia is all about Virginia wine, and they're like, that behind the scenes stuff is like access to somebody that they think is amazing. Right? And this is kind of like what I'm telling this coaching client with like a music platform. He's like, oh, I'm just talking to this person about stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but you're talking to like one of the coolest people on the planet about stuff. Yeah, people care about that. Like, really? Like, yes, they care.
Yeah, and even if it's even if it's like like a customer of vineyard and like, oh, like I'd love to talk to the owner of this vineyard about like what they do here and the wine they make and
it's
all that at the same time.
Like, you're just having a casual conversation with that guy. Then when you want to go talk to the next person, you're like, oh yeah, like look at me on Facebook.
And then with these like big name guys like Chris Pearman, Doug Fabioli, they're guys that people look up to like in the state and like on the East Coast, and like these guys are super reputable and like are so credible, and they other vineyards, like in people, especially vineyards like early on, or people like in the game, like they want to know what these guys are doing because like they know they've had success. They want to at least be half the people they are. So
okay. Well, I'm gonna hold you to it. We're gonna have to have a talk. Find out when Paul can set aside some time. But dude, there's so many things that you can do. But if you're not putting out a ton of content and Paul's telling you this and I'm telling you this, like, come on.
Yeah, two like biggest like influencers
Come
in my
on, man.
life telling me to do that on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna get on you. Richard asked one question, and then I'm gonna close it out. Thanks everybody for the time. But Richard asked, see, look at this dog. This dog's crazy.
Jesus, hey.
Oh, hi. Oh, hi.
Australian Shepherd. Richard said, bootstrap or funded. He means bootstrap or venture capital. Oh man.
Does that mean what do we prefer or what's currently happening?
I mean, I think I'm always a big fan of bootstrapping. Like I have people that are trying to invest right now, and I'm like, I don't need money. I guess
Yeah.
it's nice, but it seems like everybody that I work with that does a effective bootstrapping job, like they get investment anyways. Like investors are like literally cold calling. Yeah, and they're like, hey, I saw you at this pitch event that you won. Can I invest? And like, no, I just did the pitch event for visibility, and so I got the video. Like, I just wanted to ask one of the judges a question, and they're like, well, I want to invest. And it's like, well, we're revenue positive. Like, what are you going to do for me? I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll give you money. I'm like, I don't need money. What are you going to give me? And that's like my opinion. I know it seems difficult with hardware, but like everybody that I've known that has done that, they have viable businesses. They don't have like a debt arbitrage machine. It's really cool to get like $1 million though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Somebody say like, I agree with you, $1 million worth. Like
exactly.
yeah. But
yeah, I mean, it's a cool metric, right? But I
Mhm.
think there's a lot in this space that is all about like doing the sexy cool kid thing. And like you're saying, being able to say that you were funded X amount, like that sounds great, but you know, it's not really indicative of a great business. And I think that's why the statistics are what the statistics are. So many startups fail precisely because people are so focused on fundraising that they're not focused on sound business fundamentals. So, you know, I'm not going to say we fell into that trap early on, because I think that we really did need a little bit of gas on the fire to do what we needed to do. But I bootstrapped for, probably the first year and a half of our business, and then we started raising funds, and now we've raised like a modest 70K, and obviously we were shooting for substantially more than that, but now that we see that we can generate our own revenue, there's just a little bit less incentive for me to give up chunks of my business. Like for what? Like I can make that on my own. So I think we're moving away. I had always envisioned us going the VC route, while we may take very small angel investment. And while I'm still very much open to accelerator investments, which is kind of similar to VCs in some way, but I think that the kind of value at this stage is like 10x, because you're getting the benefit of all those relationships and, exposure. Yeah. And those terms tend to be on the more forgiving side in VC. So I guess the kind of summarized answer is, in the past we have focused on VC. We did end up taking angel funding and some, institutional kind of VC like funding from accelerators. But I think now we are turning more inward and focusing on building a solid business and generating that revenue, reinvesting that revenue.
I think that's awesome, because if you do get funding, which like people don't understand, like the vast majority of even startups do not get venture capital, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like the vast majority, like 96 to 99%, depending on the industry and size. Like seed aside, like most businesses are not venture capital funded. I don't know what virus infected everybody's brain, but like the bank does still give people loans, right? So somebody asked me about the restaurant, and I said, the bank and the SBA like give loans out for traditional businesses, right? But like what I've seen with startups, and you use the fuel metaphor a bunch of times, and like that's one of our metaphors is like gasoline, like your business is your vehicle, right? To take you on your journey, your entrepreneurial journey, or take you wherever you want to go. Gasoline for your car, that's the fuel. The same gasoline that can fuel your car can burn your life to the ground, right?
Yeah.
So people want the gasoline before they have the vehicle, and they're just pouring gas all over themselves, and they think they're winning because they got a bunch of money, and then they don't know like how to spend on product development. And like, I've seen their product development budgets, and they're like, yes, 350K, we got this thing. And I'm like, dude, I could have gotten you 1 million units for that. Like, that's insane, right? Why do you spend that much? And like, this company's very reputable. I'm like, no, they're not. They just ripped you off. Like, here's my marketing spend. It's, 500K for this. I'm like, you don't need that. Like, they go money crazy. You've seen the offices and people get office crazy, but that's just like what you visually see. Their books look the same, right? They hire staff they don't need. They spend marketing on looking cool. But like the investment, they can't get to the next round, because if you are venture backed, like your seed or your even your Series A is like the first step. Like, you're really going, like the Series A people say, we want a 10x growth, and then I want to get into Series B. So you kind of like go from sane business growth to insane business growth. And then you have to get the Series B, because you're just throwing money at marketing before you even know who you're marketing to. And like, unless you really know what's up and what that whole roadmap looks like, most people just end up wasting the money. Because you take like a college kid and you give them $2 million, and like now they're supposed to be like a CFO, CMO, CEO, all wrapped up in one.
Yeah.
Be able to hire an amazing team, attract super talent. Like most people that have been in business for 40 years would fail. Like, why would somebody succeed? Like, because they're smart. And it's just, the whole system doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
But the partnership thing makes sense. Like, if Procter and Gamble came to you and said, hey, we really believe in you, we want to give you $1 million, and we want to just have the ability to like do this partnership deal with you.
Right.
And you're like, okay, this is like a low equity ask, be able to use all their resources for product development and manufacturing, piggyback on marketing, like, 100%. Yeah, this makes sense. But for them, they get the 100x return, right? So cheap. They're like, I get to enter the market and I get a killer product for like $1 million. It costs us that to lift up a pencil. Like, this is such a good deal. That's what innovation challenges are really doing for the market. But like the venture capital thing, I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I try to be like the dumb business person. I'm like, if it doesn't make sense, and like I do the research and it doesn't make sense, I'm like, it's just, it's not real,
Yeah. I think we have to think really hard about what we're going to get out of that. Like, if you want to go the VC route, it can't just be VC for VC's sake. Like, you really need to do your homework about who that investor is, how they interact with their startups, how forgiving they are in times like this, right? In COVID, right? We hear stories all the time about VCs who see a crisis like this as an opportunity for them to come in and buy up a ton more of your company for pennies, because they know that you need the capital.
Yeah.
We recently got into Sephora's Accelerate program, and they don't give us a ton, but those relationships and that kind of retail training, how to approach distributors, how to think about shelf space, like all of the components that go into building the kind of high profile beauty luxury company we want to eventually build, like, we need that info. So, I think it's about thinking through the partnership and thinking about whether or not it makes sense, rather than, again, just like we were talking before about investors doing the sexy thing as opposed to looking at the founder's substance. Founders and business owners and CEOs also have to think substantively as opposed to just doing the sexy thing and taking the VC money.
Would you say that they have to end hype?
I would. Have you noticed that I've started to use that hashtag on Instagram?
Oh man, it's catching on. It is trademark Red Blue Collective though, so.
Okay. Got it. I'll back off.
But long way around, Richard. What I would prefer is that I think that venture capital is appropriate when you've got your business fundamentals down, you know your trajectory. What you need is you need rapid access to a market, and you would lose market viability if you don't move quickly. Like that's what I see the end hype purpose for venture capital is if I said, look, if I don't approach a market in 6 months, the market's going to be gone. I need $2 million to address this market. And I know exactly how to do it because I've been creating traction products. I've been creating customer lists. I've been getting positive attention. I know what to do. I just need to scale very quickly to take advantage of this opportunity. And like that person understands my business, their ethics are aligned with my ethics, and like their expectations are aligned with my expectations. I mean, so there's a lot of caveats there, but the real get is if Dawn knew that she could grow into a major brand and she needed X dollars and she knew exactly how to do it, and I would still always take that partnership deal. Like I would go to the P&G innovation, open call for innovation that's on their website, and I would apply for that. Even if it's half as much money, then go for a blank, venture capital. That's just me. VC is more like growth, bootstrap, develop. Yeah, exactly. I think that every viable business should actually bootstrap and have a solid actual business before they take on venture capital. At least that's the Red Blue Collective way. I'm connecting people with grants, innovation challenges, large scale pitch contests that get people. I mean, Fred won $300,000 in the last 6 months. I mean, that's pretty significant. Like the money is pretty significant. So like, it depends on your market, but I'm trying to connect people with open calls to innovation and innovation challenges as a way to fund development versus giving up equity. Because your equity is going to be worth a hell of a lot more when you have products and revenue. It literally is massive acceleration.
Yeah.
Look at this dog. He's
so pretty.
Yeah. He's like a pet shark. Like he's in there. He's like, we got to get at you. But yep. That's a great question, though. It's a really common question that I get. Dawn, thank you so much for spending some time.
Thank you, Callie, for having me.
Being more involved, like with the investor calls, and as always, like whatever you need. Like if you need somebody to like go beat up a manufacturer or give them pricing that scares the daylights out of them.
Yeah.
But whatever you need. And Ben, let's get that call. Get that call with Paul, because like, dude, you're right. You're like right there.
I know, man. I'm talking to Paul like right after this. So I'll tell him what's up. And
let's try to schedule something for next weekend.
Tell him I say hi. I don't know if he remembers me, but I remember him from the Mindhive events. Tell him I say what's up.
I told him I was on this Zoom call with y'all. I think he remembered because I said like Dawn from the most, and then he obviously knows Callie. So I think he remembered. But I'll check in with him.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Appreciate y'all. Talk to you soon.
Appreciate you.